Hello, and welcome back to the Bright Life podcast. Today, I want to answer one of the questions that I hear in my community and as I do guest podcast episodes, and maybe you have it as well. It's a really common one that I think humans experience when they are ready for that next chapter, when they're feeling the call to something different, or they have that gut feeling that there's something more for them, but they're trying to figure out what that thing is. So if you have ever had the question, what do I do with my life? I have no idea what to do with my next chapter, with business, with my career, with just making a change in general, then here's the question that really changed everything for me and has over and over again. And it's the question that I always go back to when I'm trying to find an answer. And even every new year or birthday, I will revisit this with fresh eyes because I just think it's like the most powerful question you could ever ask yourself. So not bad for like a 15-minute chat together, right? Okay, here's the question. If you could have anything, what would you want? Does something immediately come to mind? Maybe for you, it does. Now, for a lot of people though, it's vague. Like you may have this little feeling of a direction, or maybe you just want something better, maybe more fulfilling career or relationship or whatever it may be, but it's hard to really visualize in detail what you want. Now, this is why it's hard, because what I'm asking you to do today is to actually be able to articulate in detail what you want. Because only from there can you actually go about creating it. If you are sending out all these little like half signals, like picture your body here, and you are sending out like a little tiny signal maybe for this and a little one for that, and your energy's going in this direction a little bit. And so all around your body, you have like your energy going out in 1 inch in all these different directions of things you might want, like maybe your career, maybe your health, maybe your relationship, maybe like your finances. That's such a incoherent and unclear signal versus if you actually directed all of your full energy towards the one thing and the one life that you really want. There's a quote by Oprah that says, "People get to where they want to go because they know where they want to go. Most people don't know where they want to go." And I have to agree with that, because what I've seen is that this question is actually hard to articulate and truly give an answer to for most people. If you're anything like I was, maybe you have a lot of ideas of what you should want. You feel like you're an empathetic person, so you feel somewhat of a pressure from different people to want what they want. Maybe you've been in something for so long that you couldn't imagine taking a pivot and making a change. I was in that situation with corporate. I'd been in marketing and like tech marketing and made a change to first to nutrition and then to copywriting. So I get it. It can feel scary to make that change, but I did this exercise years ago. I pictured in detail what I really want, and I honestly credit it to being the thing that began to change my entire life. So there's a few ways that I'm going to offer up to you that you can do this. They're all free, so there's no excuse not to. All you need is like 30 minutes of time. So if you spend that on Instagram or Netflix, I know you got the time, holding you to that with some tough love. But here's one way that you can do it. First way is to visualize in detail your dream day. And I would recommend writing this down because writing forces you that much more to articulate what it looks like. So think about, from the minute you wake up, what does your day look like? What kind of environment are you in? Like, get detailed down to like, what's the thread count of your sheets? Like, do you make coffee first thing? Do you go to like a $35 yoga or spin class? Are you wearing like cute athleisure wear, or are you dressing up to be like a CEO that day? Are you like underneath all these wonderful children that you have in your life, or your dogs, or whatever it is? Like, who is waking up next to you? And what kind of environment and room and home are you in? What kind of city are you in? Are you in a city? Maybe you're in a rural area or some farmland, and that's like your dream. It's kind of this thing of like letting your brain free write and just getting out whatever it sees, or closing your eyes and just picturing what comes to mind. It's like this kind of fun partnership you have where maybe you have some ideas about this, but also maybe your brain is going to surprise you with what it shows you or what it writes down. So, for example, the first time that I did this exercise, I was at this like retreat in California, trying to figure out my passion, and so I paid to go to this retreat on my own and like explore for the weekend. And I they had us do this exercise, and I've talked about before how I was so surprised because I could see these visuals of myself in the meditation, like moving about my day as my own boss. But at the time, I was working in a corporate job. Entrepreneurship wasn't really like a buzzword like it is now. So I did not have this clear path of how I would even do that. And so it was kind of confusing to me, but I was like, okay, well, that's like the vision I got. I mean, that would be amazing. I have no idea how to make it happen. But what starts to happen is you go home and you start noticing, and at least I started noticing, like, oh, well, I am kind of interested in this. Maybe I could go to this class. Or, you meet someone and you start to pay a little more attention because now you know what you're looking for and what you're curious about. So I would really let your brain go wild in this exercise. The other big part of it is this is not an exercise in what would you want if it was realistic. What would you want if your friends and family thought you could have it? What would you want if, it would keep everyone happy? This is what would you want if you could have anything? And that is why this is so powerful. So start there. Another thing and practice that I offer in my courses or working with coaching clients is like a bulleted form. So if you're a little more linear of a person or you're less visual but more like audible, you like words and things, then you could do this approach as well. And so just write down all the core like buckets of your life. Could be health, family, relationships, home, career, finances, fun, spirituality, whatever speaks to you. Add in as many or as little as you want. And then just list bullets underneath them of like, okay, if I had my dream health, this is what it looks like. I'm walking 5 days a week. I'm cooking myself nourishing homemade meals. I am always someone who can be active. At the drop of a hat, I could go on a hike and feel good and feel like I'm not like heaving up the hill, right? Like things like that. Like I would literally do this for the different areas of my life. And it was kind of this contrast of both the actual thing, like the practice, like, okay, I would go and do these things. And also just little things like I mentioned, like being able to put on a swimsuit and feel confident, right? Or walk up a hill and not get winded, or not be afraid of people inviting me on a hike impromptu. Because I definitely had that fear at one point of just like, oh, hopefully this is more of like a brunch crowd and not as much of like a hiking on Saturday crowd, right? So, and that's fine. Again, this is your vision. So if you like the opposite or you don't want that to be in your vision, take it out. This is not about me. This is about you. But just giving you some tangible examples. All right. So go through and think about all of those areas. Then the important part after this, I really believe this episode alone, let me caveat, can change your life. Right. But I just think it starts to open your brain up. But the second piece that will happen if you're aware and will hopefully start to happen naturally now that we've like had this conversation is you will start to notice opportunities and teachers in your life. There's this saying that I love that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I think that is what happens here, where as soon as you get clear, you are going to teach your brain, even without meaning to start noticing courses that pop up, coaches that pop up, maybe therapists, maybe invitations to parties or weekends or classes. Maybe you will meet a new friend or someone that is going to be integral to helping you. You'll meet a new teacher. You will get an idea for a class that you've wanted to take or a skill you've wanted to learn. And all of a sudden, just like with me, not knowing how I was going to get from a vision of entrepreneurship to an actual business, you're going to start getting the stepping stones. So for me, I started to notice, well, it'd be fun to take a certain class nights and weekends. Like I could do that. And then I started to dive more into it. Then I got the idea for a business. Then I started to follow people that emulated what I thought a business owner could look like, what the life could be. And then I started to figure out what classes and courses and teachers they learned from, and figured, success leaves clues. So it started piecing it together in the way that was meant for me. And the same can happen for you. So if you stay vigilant, you'll start to see those synchronicities and those opportunities. And if you follow them, then your invitation is, of course, to take action, because nothing changes if nothing changes. You don't get anything new in your life if you don't do anything new. So I think this practice is partly just even getting clear and being able to name what you want. If you can't do it for every area of your life, at least do it for the ones that are clear now, and then keep revisiting it until you get this beautiful picture where in your wildest dreams, if this was possible, you would feel so lucky and so alive and so fulfilled. And then start to watch life bring you those opportunities. Now, of course, like I mentioned, this is a partnership. You have to take action. You can't just wish for a new life and not do anything different and see the changes, because then you're not acting as someone who would be in that life. Someone who lives the life of your dreams would have taken different actions and overcome different fears and, jumped on opportunities instead of sitting back and believing it was for someone else. So it's kind of this dance of like, you get to choose whatever you want, but then the converse of that is you get to become the person who can hold all of that, right? But this is like honestly the place I would start if I had no idea what I wanted. If I was in a season of transition, a season of trying to figure out what's next for me, I don't know what the answer is, I always come back to, if I could have anything, what would I want? What would life look like? Then I go through all the categories of my life, or I think about my perfect day. I watch for anything that surprises me and kind of take joy in that. And I don't put too much pressure on it. I don't think, if I can't figure something out or know how I would even create that, I just think interesting. Like, I'm going to start watching for those teachers that come into my life, the invitations, the opportunities. I'll take, inspired action on one that speaks to me, somewhere I feel expansive, even if it feels a little scary. And I will start to just trust that life will meet me halfway in those things, because I've seen that it does. Again, it takes you taking actions and doing different things and maybe getting a little uncomfortable. But if it's in service of this life that fulfills you and that lights you up and feels like it's truly the life you're meant to live, believe me, it is always worth it. It really is. So that is kind of this week's message and assignment. Spend 30 minutes today or this week, put on your calendar. If you could have anything, what would you want? And if you feel so called and you're watching this on YouTube, hello, welcome. And feel free to leave a comment and let me know a part of your picture or in detail. I'll hold the vision with you. And it will be a great way to look back in a year's time and just know that that moment started it all, and see what you found and what's come up for you on that journey. So thank you for being here, and I'll see you again soon.